we like, thank you. We like to record the meetings because it helps if we have a question with respect to the minutes or something like that. So
Okay, I understand.
yeah, so we just forgot to turn it on. So Erwin Rose has a question for you, Cheryl. Erwin? Erwin?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Cheryl, thank you for all your work on the DNC. I really appreciate it. I just, since there'll be a vote at the June 20th State Central Committee for our 4 members on the DNC, I thought it would be helpful if you would be willing to give people a little bit more background on how that works in terms of the 4 slots and regional representation, to how that's divided among the 4 slots. And if you can, give people a little bit more background as appropriate, knowing that there are also observers here who are not Central Committee members. To help. And also, as part of that, right now, Glenn Middleton and Greg Pecoraro are DNC members representing Maryland, along with you and Bell. And I was curious about when you described your work, you mentioned several times your coordination with Bell, but not with Greg and Glenn. So I would just like to ask you to help explain that, the extent to which, how the labor is divided, or why you describe your work so closely with Bell, but how Glenn and Greg also figure in.
So my working relationship with Bell is actually a continuation of the working relationship, or the way Yvette Lewis and Bell conducted themselves when they served as the DNC committee women representing Maryland. I just stepped into Yvette's shoes, so to speak, and we continued in that same vein. Now, as far as the process is concerned, I do know that there are 4 seats open. We must elect 2 male and 2 female from different regions of the state. For example, I'm in Region 7, Bell is in Region 6. I'm not certain. I do know that Bob and Robbie have submitted their candidacy for the DNC positions. I'm not certain if Glenn Middleton has, and I know that Greg is not running again. And the truth, to be perfectly honest with you, I have not seen Glenn Middleton for well over a year. I've never seen him at any of our executive board meetings. I've talked to him recently, and I'm not certain whether or not he's going to run. I'm not certain what he's going to do. And as a matter of fact, I don't even know, other than myself, Bell, Robbie, and Bob. I think, as far as I know, we may be the only 4 who have applied, but I don't know that for certain.
By the way, Cheryl, both Bob and Robbie are now on this call. So when
excellent.
I'm gonna ask them if they want to say a couple words.
Right, excellent. So that's pretty much it in terms of how it's broken down: 2 male, 2 female from a different region within the state.
Okay, thank you. So maybe, since if Bob and Robbie are going to have the chance to speak, then maybe they'll also be able to address the question of geographical representation.
Sure. Any other questions for Cheryl before we move to Bob?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Harold.
There's nobody on the Montgomery County Central Committee that's interested in this position?
I guess not.
I guess not.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we've had good representation from Montgomery County.
Well, we've had Bell. Bell is from Montgomery County.
Bell represents Montgomery County.
My mistake.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions for Cheryl? And, please stay if you want, or, if you need to leave, we certainly understand. We do appreciate your being here. I'm going to call on Susie Kaplan. Susie, did you want to say something?
Yes. I'm off mute, right? You can hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. In view of the fact that we have been extremely well represented by Bell Leong Hong, who has represented Montgomery County and Maryland on the DNC since 2002. She's on the DNC's executive committee and the DNC's credentials committee. She began the AAPI council with the DNC. She really does an incredible amount of work for us with the DNC. And she also did our fundraiser in January, which saved our bacon, so to speak. I would like to nominate her and Cheryl Landis. Let me rephrase that, I'm sorry. Ms. Landis just described her own experience to you. Each of these people represents I'm not saying this one. Each of them represents a county, which also represents a region of Maryland. One region is Prince George's County, one region is Montgomery County. Ms. Landis represents Prince George's, Bell represents Montgomery County. I would like us to endorse both of them to continue as incumbents, to continue to be our DNC members. I would like them to give us our support unanimously as a committee to continue.
Okay.
Can somebody reform that?
So it sounds like you would like us to unanimously endorse them to
Yeah.
continue representing us on the DNC.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Is everybody good with that? All in favor of that? Anybody? All right. So I think that Cheryl, you and Bell can certainly count on our unanimous support at the June 20th meeting for your positions on the DNC. And we thank you for representing us, albeit a short period of time right now, hopefully a longer
I know.
period of time. And also thank you for your great work on the Prince George's Central Committee. I know that you've been doing a terrific job over there as chair, and we thank you for that as well.
Okay. I want you to be assured that I will serve you with honor and integrity, and I will keep you informed. Bell and I will keep you informed about what's happening on the national level.
Great, thank you. And please do,
So much.
please do express our condolences to her.
I will.
Thank you. So next, I'd like to call on, let's see, I'll call on Bob Cressline. Cressline?
Yes.
Cressline, yes, Bob. So Bob is also, you're also the treasurer of the
That's
Democratic
correct.
Party, right, the Maryland Democratic Party.
Yep.
So if you'd like to say a few words.
Yeah, I won't keep you long. I appreciate the opportunity to say hello. It's good to see my good friend Cheryl and also Robbie, who is my co-officer on the Maryland Democratic Party. He's the secretary, I'm the treasurer. I'm from Frederick County. I've been involved in party politics for a long time. That may disqualify me, I don't know. But I started in 1980 in the Democratic Club in Frederick County, worked my way up to be the president for 2 terms there. Have served on the Frederick County Democratic Central Committee for 6 terms. 5 years of those 24 years, I served as the chair of the Frederick County Democratic Party Central Committee. I've served on the executive committee on several different occasions. And I don't know, I want to say 10 or 12 years ago, maybe longer, I was asked by Governor O'Malley to serve as deputy treasurer, which I served for a couple of years. Then I have since, probably 8 to 10 years, I can't remember exactly how many years. Anybody who's a treasurer knows it for a long time, as treasurer of the state party, a position that I'm currently in. You know, just experience isn't enough to qualify you for the national committee. I think is another thing. It's something that I've had for a long time. My passion is to serve the party. I gave up thinking about running for elective office a long time ago. I think I'm more effective being a conciliator and working in the various factions of the party to see that we can elect Democrats. I think I was instrumental in starting to turn the Frederick County Democratic Central Committee, along with my friend Tom Slater, into an activist committee. Myrna Whitworth followed that up and did an excellent job. And I'd like to take this to another level of activism, and that's why I put my name in. I also think it's important to have some geographical diversity on the national committee, on the state delegation to the national committee. As Cheryl mentioned, people are elected in one of 7 different regions, but we only have 4 members. So that means 3 regions are not directly represented. And of the 7 regions, 3 of them are ex-urban or rural areas, Western Maryland, Eastern Shore, Southern Maryland. The remainder are large counties, Baltimore County, Baltimore City, Montgomery, and Prince George's County. I think it's pretty obvious that Prince George's and Montgomery County will be well represented on the DNC. That leaves the other 5 regions. And I think that my experience advocating for the party to reach out and grow the party in the more ex-urban and rural areas qualifies me. And I think it's really important because you know what? We've lost 3 out of the last 5 gubernatorial elections, and we can't keep doing that. So I think we need to grow the party in all regions of the state, and I think I bring a perspective that will help that happen. So that's my spiel, and I appreciate the time and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Robbie speak, and then we can open up to questions for both of you, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, Robbie?
Hi, thank you for having me, Linda. I appreciate it. And thank you to the rest of the committee members and guests. I'm going to repeat some of what Bob said. So he and I are both officers, and I joined the Central Committee in 2014. So I haven't been around as long, but I think my dedication to the party is just as strong. I first ran for Baltimore County Central Committee in 2014 and then became chair probably in the beginning of 2015. We had a very quick turnover of chair. I had to jump in. They said, "Have you read the bylaws?" I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "All right, you're the chair." So I had to figure things out. And I worked really hard for a couple years as the chair of the party, turned things around in Baltimore County, got us out of the red, back into the black. And we've been doing very well in Baltimore County since then. But having been a member of the executive committee at the state level, I got to meet people like Bob, Greg Pecoraro, and, they really welcomed me with open arms. Cheryl Landis, Belle, Yvette Lewis, and I've been able to observe, how they carry themselves and how they fight for our party. And, what I've tried to do ever since I was first elected in Baltimore County as chair is to be respectfully outspoken. And that means, we're a big tent party and we have different ideologies, we have different visions, we have different constituencies, demographics. And I try to make sure that we're speaking up to make sure that all of us are heard. A lot of you might know me. I'm from the progressive wing of the party. I was the leader of Maryland for Elizabeth Warren. Was on the ballot to be a delegate to the convention for her. But as soon as she was out, I'm Team Joe, right? I know it's at stake. I know we got to kick Trump out of the White House, and I'm going to do everything that I can to bring my Warren supporters with me and other progressives as well. And I've had a very good relationship with the Bernie Sanders team over the past couple of years. We've worked together because we have the same common goal. Kind of like what Cheryl said about, once we get to the convention, we got to be on the same team. Of course, we can't control every single person, but we're going to do our best because the goal is to kick Donald Trump out of the White House. But as Bob pointed out, we're Maryland and, we're going to be voting for Biden, but we also have other elections to be concerned with. The 2022 gubernatorial race. We want to see if we can flip some more state Senate seats, get every House of Delegates seat. And we want to be able to make sure that we win races in Hagerstown, and in Havre de Grace, and all up and down the Eastern Shore. There are really seats that we can win. There are nonpartisan races that we know that there are hardcore registered Republicans running, that we can't have them win seats there. And we know that there are great Democrats who are running in nonpartisan races that we need to win. So one of those is in Hagerstown for mayor, and we need to be supporting those people. So I've been working hard with a lot of our rural areas to make sure that we are not leaving them behind, that we're also fighting to make sure that we're knocking on doors and organizing there. And at the state party level, I speak up whenever I can to make sure that we're keeping our organizers and we have staff in Maryland to working to build our infrastructure now so that we're ready in 2022. That, a couple months before the election, we don't just get a bunch of organizers from other states dropped in here to start a program, but that we all build it up and ready to go. And I know Montgomery County has always done a very good job with your precinct captain programs, and the rest of the counties around the state could really use what you guys are doing. So in my role as a state officer, I really try to work with a lot of the central committees and build up that kind of infrastructure. But other than that, I'd love to answer any questions. Again, I'm from Baltimore County, so Baltimore County is its own region. Baltimore City is its own region. So I wouldn't say I'm running against Bob from Western Maryland or running against Glenn in Baltimore City. I'm just running for the position because I think I have a lot to bring to the DNC, and I hope I can have your vote.
Thank you both for that. I have a question for either one of you. Are there any other people running, men running? I haven't seen any other candidacies. What about Glenn Middleton? What about him? Is he running?
I have not heard from Glenn. I spoke with Glenn sometime within the past year and asked him if he had intended to run. And at that point, he said if he's asked to run again, he'll run again. I appreciate Bell's candor. Glenn hasn't been to an executive committee meeting in a while, so I'm not sure, if he still intends to run again. But he's an awesome guy. I mean, if you've ever met Glenn Middleton, he's probably the nicest person you will ever meet. He's big with AFSCME, so he's a strong union guy in Baltimore City. His wife is a councilwoman in Baltimore City. She just won her reelection. We do have other DNC members. So in addition to the four, our chair, Yvette Lewis, is a DNC member, and so is our first vice chair, Corey McRae from Baltimore City. So, I do feel like, Baltimore City will still be represented if I can get in there and win a seat. And there are a couple people from Frederick also who I think have put in their names. So you have to file a letter of candidacy to the state party, but at the state party meeting on June 20th, you have to, there has to be a member of a central committee moving you and an additional member seconding you. So each person has to make sure that they get central committee members to put them in.
Okay.
I have a question, Linda.
Yeah, go ahead. Bob, did you want to add something? And then Aaron has a question.
My understanding is that
You're breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry, one or two
Breaking up a
people
little
have
bit.
put in
Can you
their
repeat that? Go ahead.
candidacies.
Repeat that. Go ahead. Can you
I
repeat
have a
that?
bad
You're breaking
connection.
up.
I'll
can hear you
pass.
now, Bob.
I'll pass.
Oh, okay. You were breaking up a little bit. We couldn't.
Yeah, I have a bad connection.
Yeah, we
One
couldn't-
or two people from Frederick have put their names in. They're not people with much party experience. I don't know. It's a wide open opportunity to file. All you have to do is declare your candidacy, and if somebody nominates you, it's very transparent and open.
Thanks. And Aaron had a question. Aaron?
I appreciate that you consider yourselves friends and not opponents, but I'm just trying to be practical. We will have to choose between the two of you, correct?
No, you can vote for both of us. And I've been very transparent in telling people, vote for me and Bob. And when Bob sent out his letter to all of the Central Committee people, I followed up to all of the Executive Committee and I said, vote for Bob and me. So there's 4 total people, and Cheryl and Belle. There's 4 people total. There's 2 males and 2 females, and it's basically, it's an open race, but there are incumbents, right? So you can vote for 2 women and 2 men, but it's kind of like that officer race that we all have to come from different geographical regions when you elected a couple years ago. So 4 years ago, when we had the same vote, there were 3 females running. It was Belle from Montgomery County, Yvette from Prince George's County, and Nicole Williams, also of Prince George's County. So the race ended up being between Yvette and Nicole because you couldn't vote for 2 people from the same county. So even though 3 people were just running for a spot, it ended up being a race of those 2 against each other, essentially. But for, the males, you can choose 2 as long as they're not from the same geographical region. So Bob represents Western Maryland. I would be representing Baltimore County. You can cast your vote for both of us. But if the only other people who are running and the only other people that I've been made aware of are also from Western Maryland, you cannot vote. You could still vote for me and one of those other people, but you couldn't vote for 2 people from Frederick County.
And then just a quick follow-up because I'm confused. Do we know how we are going to be able to cast our vote yet? Because it's going to be a Zoom meeting.
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Robbie.
You should have received an email from Michael Bayard, the political director of the state party.
What day?
I think it went out yesterday, and they're going to have 2 training sessions. You can choose one of the training sessions. One I think is a Wednesday evening, one's a Saturday afternoon or something like that. Check out the dates where we're going to do some practice rounds. Every individual member is going to be assigned a special ID so that we can capture your vote and we know that it's you're the identity of the person voting. And then at the June 20th meeting, it's going to be a Zoom meeting just like this, but we're going to have IDs for everybody so that they can vote and their votes will be tabulated.
Yeah, and if you didn't get that, you can email Michael Bayard, or you can check your email. Go back and check, because I got 2 emails. I think I got my ID today, and I have to go in and set up a PIN or something like that.
So there's other thing, if you don't, Aaron, is worthy of note, is that it's weighted voting. So just like we voted for officers, every member of the state central committee gets a vote, but the votes differ based on where you're from and how many members are in your central committee. Obviously, the larger counties have a lot more votes than the smaller counties. And as Robbie said, thank you, Robbie, that was nice. We will be well served if Robbie Leonard is elected, if Bob Crestline is elected, if Glenn R. Middleton is elected. They each have different things going on, but we can only elect 2, okay? So I think likely to happen is that Cheryl and Yvette, unless they're opposed.
Belle, you mean, Cheryl and Belle.
Excuse me?
Cheryl and Belle.
Thank you. Cheryl and Belle, unless they're opposed, they'll probably have that election first, which will knock Montgomery and Prince George's County out of the 7 regions. And then the rest of us, I'm not sure what they're going to do, Robbie, if like 2 people from Baltimore County or 2 people from the city and 2 people from Frederick run. I don't know how they're going to run that. Well, I guess we'll see.
Linda?
Yes, Susie.
This is Susie. I'd like to take a flyer here and move that the Central Committee endorse both Robert Crestline and Robbie Leonard for the DNC positions.
Okay, so Susie's asking that we give them our endorsement. Anybody have a problem with that?
I think we should wait and see. I think we should wait and see until we get all the candidates.
Okay.
I don't know when they're going to let us know that.
Well, they will let us know before the vote.
Yeah.
The close is June 12th is the closing date for declaring nominations.
All right. So we don't have unanimous consent on that. We want to wait until we see who else is running, but I think, you know, I can say, at least speaking for myself, that you certainly have my support.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Yeah, and it sounds like you have Susie's support as well, so.
And that's worth everything.
But anyway, I want to thank you.
I just want to make one brief comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Erwin.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute Arthur's request that we wait to review whether there are other candidates, although we did not do that in the case of Bell and Cheryl. But I just want to say, as someone who's been active on the executive committee since I was first elected in summer of 2018, I've gotten to know both Bob Crestline and Robbie Leonard. And I've seen up close that they are both extremely competent, professional, committed members. I think they're both serving our party very well in key leadership positions as secretary and treasurer. So I would strongly encourage people to vote for them. It's very reasonable to see who the other candidates are. But from what I know of Robbie and Bob, it's hard to imagine anyone better emerging at this point. So I just want to express my strong support for both of them.
Thank you, Erwin.
May I point out, Linda,
Go
may
ahead,
I
Susan.
point out, I'd like to point out that if you miss this meeting on the 20th and you intended to vote for these gentlemen, you'll be hurting their chances of winning. So you need to show up and you need to vote.
Well, I heard just about everybody could be there, and I'm sure that anybody that can be there will be there. So I think, you know, we'll be good. It's a Zoom meeting, so it's a little easier than getting in your car and driving to, where is it, that place that we go?
Usually
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
IBEW.
Yeah, IBWO. Okay, anything else for these gentlemen? We do appreciate your being here, and thank you for all the information. Cheryl, we appreciate your being here as well. And, you know, good luck to everybody. I guess we'll see you on the 20th, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all
Thank
right.
you. Bye,
Thank
Robbie.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Okay, so now I'd like to move to the next item on the agenda, which, let's go back to the treasurer's report. I don't think, Dave Kuhns, is still not on the meeting, I don't think. I don't think he's still here. He sent me the report, but
He's not here.
he's not
Was
here.
it distributed?
I did not distribute it. I don't know whether he did. I mean, I got it like right before the meeting.
That's not worth distributing then.
Yeah. Let me share it though on the screen so we can look at it. All right, he had it all nice, and then I put it in Google Docs, and now it looks like this. Okay, so, and I can't, hold on one second. Give me a break here, folks. I'm gonna try this again. Let me go back here. Let's see, get this off of here.
Can I make a point of order?
No, I got it. Yeah, what's your point of order?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's not a point of order, but I want to suggest that, as I think we've done in the past, that we wait and push this down in the agenda and see if Dave is able to attend in time to present it.
Well, it's an hour into the meeting now. I mean, how long do we wait?
Can someone just text him and say, are you coming? I'm happy to do that.
Okay, if you
Why
want
don't
to.
you just share the report if you just.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think I agree with that sentiment, Erwin, but it's an hour into the meeting. It's not like it's 10 minutes into the meeting. I'd really like to kind of get moving and have the treasurer's report before we have the financial committee's report. I think makes some sense.
So do you want me to text him or not?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Erwin. I mean, Erwin, Aaron.
Okay, I have to go and get my phone in another room, but I'll text him.
Well, never mind. Don't do that then. I'll text him. No, my phone's off.
I'll go get into the other room then.
Okay. So do you want me to continue to go on the agenda then while we're waiting for Aaron to text?
Can you pass me my cell phone real quick?
What? Somebody. Okay. Oh, that was Aaron. Okay. So let's go back to the agenda. So we'll skip. Let's go to the Finance Committee report then. I don't see why we probably don't have to wait for the treasurer's report to do the finance committee report. Dave Schumacher, do you want to do the finance committee report?
Thank you. My
I'll put
report
that
will
up
be
on the
very,
screen if I can find it here.
okay.
I think.
Um,
Maybe I don't
the
have.
report will be very brief.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
may get done before you get it up on
Yeah,
the
okay.
screen.
So just talk.
And the finance committee work is really pretty much decoupled from the day-to-day treasury operations. So there really isn't a dependency, and we have not seen the monthly treasurer's report either. So I
Uh-oh, Dave, we lost you.
And basically what I want to say to the Central Committee is that this month is really a preview. We expect to have much more by way of outcomes to share with the Central Committee next month. We are working a 12-month budget to run the period from July to June 2021. We have a near final draft and to present that next month. We had hoped to have it this month, but didn't quite make it on that. The other thing that we want to apprise the Central Committee of is many of you know the name of Schwartz. Jody is an experienced political finance consultant who has worked with a number of Democratic organizations and officeholders. She worked with the Central Committee during 2019 a little bit, and we're currently in discussions with Jody about helping us to improve our management further. Those discussions are going well, so I can't share an outcome with you at this point, but we're very optimistic that we'll have an outcome to share with you by the time of the July meeting. So I'll be happy to take any questions that anyone may have, but other than that, that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Dave and the finance committee? They've actually been doing a lot of work, and I've been working hard on the budget and the reconciliation. We look to be in pretty good shape on that. Okay. I don't know that there's anything in the report that we have to act on. It's more or less just for your information. So I think we'll just, without objection, accept that report without a motion and just move on. I did see in the email that, thank you, Dave. I did see in the email that Dave Kuhn said that he was not going to be attending the meeting. He has a work conflict. So I think we should probably just go to the treasurer's report, which is what I'm trying to do here. And we'll take a look at that and go over that if that's okay with everyone. All right, can we move on to that? All right, here's the treasurer's report. Thank you, Aaron. I don't know if you heard what I just said.
Yeah, I heard.
Sorry about that. I didn't pay much attention to the email. It came in right before the meeting. Okay, so here's the treasurer's report. You can see the summary. The non-federal account has almost $9,500 in it. The federal account has $40,000 in it. And the admin account has only $28 in it. It keeps going down because they keep taking service fees out of it. We have to do something to build that account back up. And maybe we will at this fundraiser in the way that we're raising money here. But anyway, so we have a total of almost $50,000 in assets, $49,731, and $12,280.96 in club funds. Here is the, I'm gonna shrink that back down there, Susie, so people can see it, and then I'll shrink it back, I'll put it back up. Here is the the breakdown of current assets, and accounts receivable. You can see all of that. And then here are the bank statements, which reflect what was in the first part of the report. So we're still doing all right in terms of finances. And I think that we are all caught up on our reporting. We did have a little bit of a problem with being late on our state report, but we ended up fixing that, getting that in, so that's all done. And our federal reports are all up to date, and as Dave Schumacher reported, Jody Schwartz has been helping Dave Kuhns with that, and that's been working out really well. So I think we're in pretty good shape here, folks. I do want to say, and Arthur, you can jump in here if you want, that we now have no obligation at this current time. We really don't have an obligation to the Marriott. They have canceled the June 28th event, for which we had said we would pay a guarantee. They decided to cancel all events at this point, and Arthur and I will discuss what we're going to do in terms of a fall event that we talked about and booking that. Arthur, did you want to add anything about that in terms of where we are with the Marriott?
No, you summed it up well. He is reaching out as to what we want to do for the future. Right. So we do need to think about rescheduling. We need to think about rescheduling for next year to try to lock in some space for the two events that we're not going to hold this year, the brunch and the spring ball, so that we can get the dates that we desire. Okay, so maybe you and I can talk about that offline, and we can present something to the committee via email. Would that work? Okay. That'll work. Sure. About in terms of dates for those events. So really the only obligation we have are to people who paid for tickets to the brunch and didn't get to go to the brunch. And so one of the things that kicking around with the finance committee co-chairs is, perhaps some of these fundraising events that we're having, we might be able to offer, let brunch participants participate in them at no charge, but we have to make sure it's an event that's comparable, right, in terms of what we're looking at. Okay, so I don't think there's any. Go ahead, Arthur. Let me ask you another question. We had talked about doing something after the election. Right. Still interested in. Well, I think that's what we want to talk about. I think that might be good if we're able to do it. That might be a fun event to do, and that certainly would be a place where we could honor brunch admissions. So that's what we were talking about doing, and I think that might still be something that we want to do. Okay, so yeah, let's you and I talk about that offline, and then we'll come back to the central committee with what we figure out. Okay, I don't think we need, the treasurer's report is what it is, but I will take a motion to accept the treasurer's report. Would somebody move that we accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Second, Aaron.
Seconded by Aaron. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we accept the treasurer's report. Did you say no? Did you say no, Susie? I don't know how you can say no to the.
That was not me.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Who moved the motion?
It was moved by Harold. It was seconded by Aaron. Okay, all right.
Vote.
Okay. This is not approving it, it's accepting it. Okay. Moving on to other committee reports. The fundraising committee, Greg Wims.
Yes, and I have to say thank you to everyone on this call and those who are not. Our very first event was, first of all, it was a lot of fun. Finding out how to put together flower arrangements and how to plant a garden. We also had 83, 84 participants, and we met our goal. Our goal was 2,000 for this one, and we actually made a little bit more than that. And I wanted to give some more good news. I think I want to add that to it. We just found out from Daniel that today, Linda, he put his check in the mail to be a forum member.
Good.
So we have a new forum member, but we're going to add it to our first fundraiser. So that $500 will go to that. And then we want to thank the committee. We're going to let Scott come and give us the details of the upcoming events, but the committee was so wonderful. And we're just very happy because once you start something, then we think the momentum is there for the next ones. So again, thank you, everyone. And we have to thank Linda. She runs me as president, but every step of the way, she's there as a committee member and contributing 100%. So with that success, we want to have Scott tell us what we have planned for about 3 weeks from now or 2 weeks from now.
10 days. 10 days.
Wow, it's coming up fast. We think it will be, I will say before he talks, this is going to be a little more expensive. We know some of the Central Committee members will probably say it's a little high, but the idea is to raise money with a national figure. And then we'll go back to what we started with reasonable amounts that we can do for the rest of the year. So with that, wonderful, Scott, go ahead and tell us what you have planned for us.
Thank you, Greg, and it's an honor to serve alongside you as co-chair, and I want to thank everybody who is on the fundraising committee. Y'all have done an incredible job thus far. And I also, in addition to thanking Linda for her assistance, I also want to thank Michael Tardif, who has been phenomenally supportive. Been phenomenally supportive in the messaging and getting out our invitations to folks and following up. So that's been really helpful. Thank you, Michael, for that. So the next event that we have planned is a joint fundraiser with Congresswoman Val Demings, who, as many of you know, is near the top, if not at the top, of Vice President Biden's shortlist to be his running mate. I've developed a relationship with the Congresswoman, and she is going to blow this thing out of the water. I promise you that. This is going to be a successful event, like the likes of which the Central Committee has not seen in a long time. Just to put it in perspective, we blasted this event out this morning, and within 45 minutes, we already had a $5,600 check in the joint bank account, which means that's $2,800 for us within 1 hour of this event being announced. And that's a really big deal. And I only expect that to grow as we continue our outreach efforts. Greg and I are going to work on identifying who should on the committee, on the fundraising committee, be calling the people we're soliciting for these bigger contributions. And I'll also be using my lists as a former finance chief of staff at the Democratic National Committee to market this event to a more national audience as well. Because there are a lot of people, especially in the South, who are going to respond to this event. People within the African-American community. As many of you know, this event was originally intended to be a Juneteenth celebration. But given the events of the past several weeks, and hell, at the beginning all the way back to the beginning of COVID, when we began to see how deleterious and how pervasive and how sinister the systemic racism in this country has affected communities of color, their access to healthcare, education, employment, and housing. A celebration does not feel in keeping with what is going on right now. And so what we've decided to do is, instead of framing this as a Juneteenth celebration, it will be a fundraiser held on June 19th, but will feature prominent members of the Congressional Black Caucus, including my friend Senator Cory Booker, Congressman Anthony Brown, Congressman Kwesi Mfume, and of course our featured guest, Congresswoman Val Demings. So that event is going to be a huge success. I'm very confident in that. Marketing it in earnest will begin very shortly. Excuse me. And then I want to also mention that event is on June 19th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And I also want to mention our Pride reception, which is going to be with Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney of New York. He represents parts of Westchester County in the upstate New York area. and he's a phenomenal member of Congress. Thank you for whoever's making that magic happen on the screen. And he's a phenomenal member of Congress. He actually serves with Val on the House Judiciary Committee. So they have a sort of shared bond there. But Sean Patrick Maloney is going to be our featured guest, as well as Virginia delegate, Danica Rome, who is the first trans person elected to the Virginia House of Delegates and is a trailblazer in her own right. And so I also want to thank Sam Jones for her work in helping secure that special guest. So with that, I will open it up to any questions.
This isn't a question. I just want to make a comment. Greg mentioned the Seeds of Victory fundraiser, which was the Garden Party fundraiser. I also want to give a shout out to Laura Henderson on that one, because that was her idea. And when she proposed it, I was kind of like, really? How's that going to work? And it turned out to be phenomenal. It turned out to be great. I've gotten so many good reports on it. And we ended up raising $2,500, not including the $500 from Daniel. So if we want to include Daniel's $500 in there, we can kick it up to $3,000. But we did make $2,500 from that. As far as the Val Deming's report or event that you saw the invitation for. So we have not blasted that out across the universe. We might end up doing that eventually. Right now, Scott is just working a crowd of high donors to see that, just to, to see how much we can get for these, host and co-host levels. And then, we may put it out more broadly after that and see if people want to, chip in and join. The only people that got it on the central committees went out today, and the only people that got it are people who have made donations of, I believe it was $250 or more. So those are the only people on the central committee so far who have gotten it. I think, Scott, we can probably blast it out to the central committee after this meeting, since we talked about it, so that you all have a copy of the invitation.
And I would just advise everyone just to please be mindful of the press guidance that we sent out, or that Linda sent out from Congresswoman Deming's campaign. This event is likely to attract some press attention. Events like this generally do, in my experience. And we want to make sure that this is very tightly executed, and that our message discipline game is really strong, because we want to make sure that we're honoring our special guest and not, causing any undue trouble.
Okay, so that's what that was about. That's why you got the that information about the press. I know that was a little confusing maybe to people, but the reason we had to get that out is because we didn't know if you would start to get inquiries, if anybody would start to get inquiries. The bottom line is, if you get them, you should send them to, what's the guy's name that was in the
Jonathan Adams. Jonathan Adams.
Jonathan Adams. And I did send out an addendum to that with his contact information in there. So anyway, anybody have any questions for Scott or Greg?
This is Susie.
Yeah.
I posted the question in chat, and it's just, is there any chance of extending the time of the event and perhaps adding one or two speakers? I think we can still celebrate Juneteenth while at the same time working to build and better current events.
I think the answer to that is no. There's no chance now of extending the length of the event. I mean, as I'll let Scott jump in here, but as Scott explained, we built it around Val Deming's. That was the time frame that she had. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Scott. But
I would say that is the case, and I would also add that the run of show for this event I've already choreographed and sort of sketched out. So we're kind of, it's all tight and it's going to be executed tightly. That's the way I do things. That's the way Greg does things. So we're going to keep it tight. We're going to keep it within Congresswoman's time frame and all of our special guests' time frames to respect their contribution to the Central Committee.
Yeah.
And I would say this did come up, Susie, in the committee meeting, and I want to again thank the committee. We've been working very hard. That we have 4 or 5 more events throughout the year, so we'll get a chance to add some things that we won't be able to do in the next 10 days or 11 days. And
Right.
finally, I would like to say, again, thank all of you for the first one. But on this one, the bottom line is, as you heard earlier from our speakers, we have to beat Donald Trump, and we need all the money we can get to beat Donald Trump, not only in Maryland, but in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Virginia. So, and we want to thank Scott for volunteering again, let everyone to know he's not getting a penny from this. He's volunteering to help us.
Yeah, and we're so lucky to have him. Thank you so much. And also, you know, we should also shout out to the rest of the committee, but Mimi and Daniel and the 2 student members, Aline and Catherine, have joined the committee. And as I said, Laura and Tony Hausner is also on the committee, right? Who am I missing? I got everybody, right?
You got them all.
Okay, great. Anything else for the Finance Committee? Any other questions? Sorry, Fundraising Committee. Any other questions? I'm telling you, folks, this is also the Fundraising Committee. They have a lot of fun on their committee meetings. So anyway, okay, thanks. Next, Issues Committee. Aaron, let me get your report. I think I have it, but you can start talking, Aaron, if you want.
Yes, I just have a couple points that I want to make. First of all, we sent it out a couple hours before the meeting, and that's because we just wanted to get it to you tonight. You have 30 days to review it because we will not be discussing it until the July meeting. But please do, because we're giving you 30 days, please do read it ahead of time and come prepared to discuss it. The Cliff Notes version is that we all felt that Mr. Ficker's proposed amendment that likely has enough signatures to cap property taxes to the rate of inflation would create significant financial consequences for Montgomery County and the services that we care about. And we saw that when Prince George's County did this, it really hamstrung their ability to provide all the quality services they wanted to. And also, Mr. Ficker, the author of the amendment, is a staunch Republican who's had his law license suspended several times. So I just think that we all unanimously felt that this was the right thing to do, but we'll discuss it more next month. I will just say that I was disappointed. I know everyone's busy, but I sent it out with 7 days notice, and I sent out a doodle poll before. And the reason that I got you the report today is because we had our meeting Sunday, because I thought more people would be able to participate on a Sunday. But this is a very important issue that could impact the finances of the county for generations, and only 5 people showed up, so that was a bit disappointing. And then the other thing is that there are going to be 2 other ballot questions with regard to moving the council to a 9 district member council, but when we haven't taken a position on that, but the Republicans have been pushing for that because that increases the chances that they'll get a nominee. And I'm old enough to remember when there were 2 Republicans on the county council, so it's not a far off possibility. And then one that was pushed by the Democratic leadership of the General Assembly, which would give the General Assembly the authority to add to the governor's budget. Maryland is the only state in the union where the legislature can only subtract from that, from their state budget. So it's the most powerful governor in the country on fiscal matters. So anyway, feel free to reach out to me in in the preceding month, and please do read it ahead of time for next month.
Thank you, Aaron. And let me just add that we also are going to have a ballot committee, right? A ballot advisory committee. Is that what it's called? I took it down, but.
Ballot question advisory.
Ballot question advisory committee. So we're going to need some people on that. So we're not going to do that today because we're not even at the deadline yet for when we will know what the ballot questions are. But be thinking about whether or not you'd like to be on that committee. The Issues Committee report does an excellent job of outlining what the process there is in terms of our role in making recommendations about the budget questions. It involves the precinct organization, it involves this entire committee, and it involves the ballot question advisory committee. So take a close look at that, and at the July meeting, we will be appointing that committee to handle that. Any questions of Aaron? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is the student members report. Aline, did you want to give a brief report on your fellowship program?
Yes.
Or I should say Juan. First, Juan, do you have anything? I assume you're going to defer to Aline, Juan.
Yeah, I'm going to defer to the two student members. I mean, they did a really excellent job hosting a meeting, and thank you for the several Central Committee members that also attended the meeting with the new fellows in the program. But look, ladies, please take it away.
Hi, okay, just me today. Catherine is at a graduation party. But yes, I want to say again, thank you to everyone who came to the fellowship meeting. We have our fellows here today. Some of them had to leave early, but we still have a few left. And yeah, we're really excited. We'll have another meeting tomorrow. And we're going to be planning for an event in August, most likely, which will either be a fundraiser or might just be an event to get more youth involved in the political process in general. We're still working out the details on that. But yeah, that's basically it for now.
Great. And I know I attended the fellows meeting and it was terrific. I know some other Central Committee members attended as well. And it was really nice meeting everybody. And it was really a nice meeting. Anybody have any questions of Aline or Juan? All right. Thanks, Aline. Thanks, student fellows. Great. Okay, moving on. Board of Elections. Dolly.
Yes. Board of Elections, their last meeting, they dealt, I don't really have a report because the last meeting they dealt mainly with just preparing for the election. So there's nothing to report from that meeting. But this morning I did get some numbers for the, so far, the turnout for the election, if you want those.
Yeah, I can post those on the screen here. I think, is this what you're looking at, Dolly? This is the right one, right? 2:45 p.m. Or is that the old one?
Yes.
That's close.
Well, that's not really, well, he broke it down a little. Dr. Zelaya broke it down a little more as far as the ballots cast so far. I don't think that, is that there, 139,000?
No, that must be the old one. Let me see if I can find it. Go ahead, say what your report is. And
okay, well, this is what he gave me this morning. He said, this is what they have so far. And that is that of the number of registered voters, which is 671,000, the ballots that were cast were 139,487. 20,000 Republican, 105 Democrat, and nonpartisan 14,000.
Dolly, that's high for a primary, right? That's what
Yeah.
Linda's email earlier this week seemed to indicate.
It's pretty high.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know David Naiman is here. He can answer any questions about that. But my understanding, Dolly, is that it's higher than 2016, right?
2016 was 185,400.
So it's quite a bit more.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh no, it was higher than that. It was 240,000, I think.
And oh,
20,
this is what
20.
This is what Alan gave me.
No, I know, but that was on election day.
Yeah, you also may be looking at Democrats versus all voters. That
Right,
might be
right,
a
right.
difference as
But
well.
it was 240, right, David? 248 or something like that? 248,000?
I'll get it for you.
Because this is what I got from Alan.
Yeah. But anyway, in any case, it exceeded 2016 with, given all the problems, that's amazing.
Yeah, we basically have a significant number of additional votes, and we're essentially doing like an absentee canvass for, we were usually doing votes in the tens of thousands, we're doing votes in the hundreds of thousands. So it really, it's taking time, but at the end of it, the turnout is likely to be the highest ever.
The highest ever? Wow.
In terms of primary, yes.
Wow. That's pretty amazing considering there wasn't,
There wasn't much on the ballot.
presidential contest. Yeah.
So
So
is
that's
June-
amazing. Go ahead.
Is June 14th the deadline, David?
The deadline is Friday for receiving ballots. They had to have been postmarked by Election Day, and they have to be received by this Friday.
The 12th, yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Dolly or David?
Hi, Linda, this is Daniel.
Yeah.
Hey, so I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere where some folks were complaining about not receiving ballots. David or Dolly, can you talk about that? People who never receive a ballot in the mail?
I've heard those complaints as well, and there was actually a letter in the Washington Post of someone who did not receive their ballots, and we're looking into what happened with those. There were a lot of people who got issued a second ballot if their first one did not arrive, and of course, I'm sure you've all heard about the problems between the state and its contractor with the ballots arriving late. And I know that I would like to know about anybody who did not receive a ballot, and I'd definitely like to know about anybody who attempted to contact our staff and did not end up with a ballot, because from my understanding, our staff has been doing a number of different things to get people ballots, including sometimes delivering them personally to people's homes. So I'm very, concerned about people who did not get their ballots. One of the, we are collecting a list of lessons learned from the primary for the general. One of the big ones is that we can't figure out why the contractor would decide that Montgomery County should be the last one in the mail and not the first one in the mail, given how large we are.
Well, don't they say that it's the state didn't give them in time?
They do, and I frankly do not know who to believe. I don't assume that anyone is either telling the truth or not telling the truth. I'd like to know what the facts are for that. But what I'm suggesting is that regardless of what happened this time, one of the things we should be talking about for next time is that the larger jurisdiction should get mailed out first, because it's like trying to steer a cruise ship. I mean, it's a much bigger and more difficult thing to replace the ballots, to deal with all the people who don't get them, to count them all. And so we want to get that to be on the early side. We're also hoping to try and get the state or the governor, whoever it is that needs to make a decision about the fall election, to do so early so that a lot of preparation can be made. Now, you all know that regardless of what decision the state makes, every registered voter in Montgomery, well, not just Montgomery County, in the state, has a right to get a vote by mail. You don't have to have any reason. You just have to, request it. So another option, if the state does drag its feet in terms of what they're going to do in the fall, is just to encourage people who want to vote by mail to just go ahead and request it. That didn't quite work the way it should have in the primary, because apparently they didn't mail to the absentee voters list until after they did everybody else's ballots, and those were late too. But again, we're going to be really on top of them now that we've had this experience, in order to make sure that Montgomery County's needs are being met.
Okay, I would make 2 points also, and one is that from what I'm reading, our elected officials, including the Senators Cardin and Van Hollen, are demanding an investigation of the State Board of Elections to find out just exactly what did happen. And then the other thing I want to point out is that Michael on Facebook has been asking people when they're complaining, he asks them to write to him so he can catalog all the complaints.
Well, yeah, it's actually more than that. So
Who's asking for this?
Well, Michael Tardivis, but senators, just in response to people on Facebook. Senator Cheryl Kagan, I reached out to her at the behest of the election task force. I reached out to Senator Cheryl Kagan, State Senator Cheryl Kagan, who is conducting a hearing June, I think it's next week. I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but it's coming
It's on
up.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, right, a week from today.
It's at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, 1 o'clock, thank you. And she's conducting a hearing on all of these issues at the state level. So she asked us to compile a list of anecdotal evidence for her from all these things that we had heard. And so we did that from the calls we received on our voter line that we had out there. But then we also put in the newsletter a call for people who had problems to report them to us and give us their contact information. So Michael compiled that and at my request sent that to Cheryl. And so the Facebook discussion isn't that Michael posted something on Facebook. He was responding to people who had raised the issue on Facebook, and he was directing them to come here and to report their problems. So that's what we're doing. We're working with Cheryl Kagan to do that, and we'll see what comes of it. I wasn't aware that Van Hollen and Cardin were initiating investigations, but I'll check in with them too and see. And of course, we want to give that information to our own board of elections representatives.
Mm-hmm.
Which Michael, you can do that, right? You can send that spreadsheet to David and Elise and Alan if you would.
Sure,
that'd be
yep.
great. Yeah,
I got 3 more today to add to that sheet.
Oh, good, excellent. Okay,
David,
Yes.
may I ask a question of David, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
What I need is to know how many ballots were returned unopened to the Board of Elections.
Meaning undeliverables?
Undelivered. Yeah.
I have to get,
yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
But I'll have to get that for you.
And I don't know if they counted this, but if there's any count of ballots that were inappropriately used, ballots that were delivered to an address where the owner of the ballot was not the current resident and the resident misused the ballot by changing the name on it or something like that.
If they do, it wouldn't be counted.
Right, I know that.
And if you're asking me how many times did that happen, we won't know that until we're done.
Right. Okay.
But it's actually a pretty rare occurrence.
Before now, certainly it has been, but I hope it will be still, but it could happen more because of the nature of what we've done.
I'll just tell you that there's lots of things that could happen that won't.
Fair enough.
The Republicans argue about voter ID. The people can impersonate other people, and I think we know that could happen if someone knows my birthday, for example. But it's very unlikely to happen for lots of different reasons.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that. I'm just concerned about educating people.
Okay, good. Laura Henderson has a question. Laura.
Okay.
Yes, for David. I was just wondering, given all of the challenges that we did have this year with the vote by mail contractor, whether there are other contractors out there that might be very reliable that are being considered for the November vote by mail, possibility That's
Right.
number one, and then I'll just go
Okay.
ahead with my next question.
Go
The
for
next
it.
question, that a concerned neighbor who has helped with staffing the polls when I was a precinct official, asked me, Laura, given all of the sort of dirty techniques used by the other party, what would keep someone from going to one of those standalone boxes that were there for dropping your ballot in and sticking a match in and just having a bunch of ballots go up? And I didn't have a good answer other than the fact that sometimes there were people watching, but not 24/7 over those machines. So I just wanted to ask those two things. Thank you.
Okay, well, let me take the second one first. There is video 24/7 of those boxes. That does not necessarily prevent someone from putting a match in it. The deterrent value of it being a crime, plus the video would hopefully serve as a deterrent. I'm sorry, remind me your first question again.
The first question was, given all the problems with this vote by mail contract on every level, whether or not there's another really reliable contractor or contractors that are also being considered for November, since we can't afford to have lots of problems.
Right. I am told that is being done, but I don't have any specifics. I was not, because we're obviously not involved in choosing contractors. It's the state, and also, but our staff told us that is being considered. I was actually kind of disappointed, but not surprised to learn that the same contractor, in one of these articles, it says that they are under contract for November, but I don't know whether they're under contract with an exclusivity, because ideally we should have multiple contractors, because it's obviously a very big job. And I certainly hope so. While I have the floor, just two quick things. First off, the biggest issue that we've had thus far with ballots that we have thrown out, regrettably, has been people signing the ballots, which is illegal in the state of Maryland. The messaging for the future has to not only be to remind people to sign the oath, but sign the oath, but don't sign the ballot. And then the other issue that we've had is that we've had people who get online ballot delivery, and they sometimes they may print the same page more than once, and actually vote it differently. But obviously, one ballot is all that that we can get from people. And then the last thing I was going to mention is that I saw that there was pretty significant crowds at the end of the day on election day at the vote centers. And one thing for us to consider for the fall is either more vote centers, and the other, and again, the balance being that you don't really want to encourage people to go out in a pandemic, but it may be that it's just going to happen anyway. We don't want people to be in line either. And the other possibility is it may be very difficult to get polling places for election day in November, especially if school is back in session, and then we're going to bring everybody in from the public, into a school building on a Tuesday in November. But it also may be that if we were to have early voting with a mail-in ballot, so in other words, your choices are mail-in ballot or early voting, that might help to eliminate some of the lines that we saw on, or at least make them, or at least ameliorate the lines that we saw on election day.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for David or Dolly? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna thanks.
Linda, can I ask one quick question to David? Because
Sure.
I brought
Go ahead, Dolly.
Laura's question about security, and I brought this up too at the beginning, and was told 24/7 camera surveillance. Is that monitored, or will that, if something happens overnight, will you just see who did it the next day, or will someone actually be seeing it happen?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Well, unfortunately, I do.
Well, Mark,
Oh, okay.
why don't you wait to be recognized by the chair?
Certainly. May
So I was going to say.
Mark is more of an expert on this than I am.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I want to keep conversations between people to a minimum. I was going to say that, yes, we do know how that works. And we did have an incident where some of our signs were stolen. So, you know, Mark, you can tell about how the video works based on what, you know, your investigation of that issue.
Okay, thank you. Well, yes, I mean, what I learned is that the county has 6,000 cameras. So yes, they're monitored, but maybe 50 at a time. But yes, they're all recorded. So we have a recording, a rather clear recording actually, of the people who vandalized our signs at Wheaton. They're still looking through the video because it's pretty laborious to do that. To see if they can find the people who vandalized our signs at Germantown. But there are a couple of different agencies that take care of the signs. For example, Rockville is not the county, it's Rockville. So I don't know what exactly happened there. But yes, Montgomery County has been monitoring the videos of and also they also had additional patrols coming to the drop-off boxes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anything else for David or Dolly? Okay, I'm going to move on to the election task force, which kind of dovetails on this. And we did talk about, well, we talked about some of this already. We did talk about following up on the problems that occurred during the vote by mail primary and getting that information to Senator Kagan. And that's underway. And so, and Mark talked about the signs. We did distribute signs at the polling sites and drop boxes. We still have those signs, and Shruti and Dave and I are going to talk about how we distribute those signs. We have about approximately 100 signs. We're going to try to distribute them among the precinct organization folks and let them display them in various places. We did have 6 signs stolen from the Wheaton Center. Kudos to Mark Hoffman for his intrepid investigation. We actually just got pictures of the people who did it. It's pretty amazing, actually. I'm not going to cast aspersions, but let me just say they look like Republicans to me. Okay. But anyway, it was an older couple, and they, you know, folded up our signs, and you saw them do it and put it in the trash. So anyway, so we're on that. The other thing, and Mark did file a police report, although, you know, this isn't the crime of the century. It is worth doing that because it is against the law to do that. The other thing I wanted to mention in connection with the election task force is the Volunteer for Victory launch that we had on Saturday. I think most of you joined that meeting. We have established a bi-monthly, every other week, I always get that wrong, newsletter for volunteers that describes activities being undertaken by various groups in the counties and tells them how they can plug in. And then we're also going to do a monthly check-in with volunteers via Zoom. And I think the precinct organization is also going to have precinct leaders also do precinct level actions and join these groups. There are going to be district meetings among precinct leaders within the next month to discuss what they're doing on that score. So we're, we continue to get volunteers, and we're trying to funnel them into all these activities that are out there and use them to the best that we can. I don't know if Scott or anybody else wants to add anything about the election task force. We did not meet last week because we had the Volunteers for Victory launch on Saturday. We will meet this week. So I don't know if anybody has anything to add there, or if there are any questions about any of this.
thanks everybody for all your work on the primary. Record turnout is great, right? It didn't look so good in the beginning, but now it looks pretty good. And we did a lot to try to educate people about vote by mail. So we'll have to continue to do that. Does anybody have any questions or anything else they want to add about that? If not, we will move to old business. I'm just going to report really quickly that we had a trustees meeting for the first time in a long time. Several of you also joined that. Thank you very much. I got great compliments on Central Committee members and the reports that you all gave to the trustees. I forget when that was. I think it was last week. Everything blends together when it's COVID, but I think it was last week. And we had about 35 people on the call, I think, 35 trustees. It was the best turnout they've ever had for one of those meetings. And it was quite, I thought it was quite good, and they are quite excited. And we actually had some contributions. As a result of that. So that's the trustees meeting. And I just have been reminded from Pam, I'm sorry, Pam, I had put the partnerships and outreach committee on the agenda and I skipped right over it. So Pam Lockett, would you please report on your committee, partnerships and outreach?
Okay, good evening, everybody. This will be very brief. Thanks, Linda. So our committee did meet. The committee consists of myself, Marjorie, and Susie, and we just wanted to kind of draft an outline of proceeding with this. As you all know from the last meeting, the purpose of this group is to really reach out to and re-engage the clubs specifically back with the Central Committee. So what we decided that we're going to work on over this next 30 days is to first get a list of all the clubs and all the information that we currently have in-house. And there is information available from what we were doing about a year ago, as well as hoping that the magnificent Michael Tardif has some information as well that we can get. And we then want to engage personally. So we're gonna split it up and engage personally with each of the club, whoever the contact is, if it's the chair, if it's the past chair, to tell us, rather than sending out an email, we want to really reach out to them personally and let them know that we want to re-engage them and just work together more closely between the Central Committee and the clubs. And we're looking at the clubs that are chartered, those clubs that are actually unchartered, and those that are seeking to be chartered, because I understand that there was some correspondence from a group that would like to be chartered as a Democratic club, and also the caucuses and the trustees. And so we want to be able to increase and improve the relationships that the Central Committee has with all those groups. And also we want to develop a value added for them. Why would they want to or need to engage with the Central Committee? And we feel like that's very important as we go into the 2020 general election to get people on board for a lot of the things that are happening that they may not even know about, support them with the activities that they're doing and just build that out, as well as all the incredible work the volunteer engagement group is doing, where we have volunteers come in and they may want to participate in a club or, you know, be more aware of that. And so our goal is to schedule our first Zoom meeting with the clubs between the end of June and the first part of July. And that is the end of my report.
Excellent. Thank you, Pam. Any questions or comments for Pam or her committee? Thank you very much. That
Linda,
really is needed. Oh, Moomin, go ahead.
Yeah, just, and I'm going to ask Juan to chime in here. I think there's something in our rules that requires us to get updated information of all of the charter clubs. Juan, do you remember exactly how often we need to do that? I mean, this may be a good time to do that too, really, at the same time. While we
Yeah, and we did talk about that as well. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's in the rules or not, we should do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So.
Yeah, it does comply, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah, good, good. And yeah, as Pam said, we did have a request to form a new club, and I've got to get them some information. I told them I'd give them some examples of some of the charters that are there. So I hope I'm able to find those in the office. Any other questions?
What's the group, Linda?
Huh?
What's the group that wants to form a new club?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the Germantown. They want to form a Germantown Democratic Club, and the guys from District 15, but District 39 is also a part of Germantown. Also overlaps into District 39, so it would include members from both.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, it is pretty cool. Okay. Anything else for Pam and the outreach committee? Great, thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, any other old business anybody has? Old business? No? Okay. New business, I did put on the agenda the sample ballot committee. I put it there because it's going to show up again, and it's something that we need to have a discussion about. We don't need to discuss it at this meeting. But we do need to have a discussion about it in the very, like maybe the next meeting, right? Because we need to decide what we're going to do there with the sample ballot. And if we're going to do a sample ballot, then we need to get a committee going. So I wanted to put that all on your all's radar to start thinking about that. It's not going to be that hard this year to do a sample ballot because there aren't as many races. But how we do it and how we distribute it and so forth, we probably need a committee, some people working on that. So if you're interested in being on the sample ballot committee, please let me know offline, send me an email, tell me that you're interested in the sample ballot committee. And I'll also be reaching out to some people that I think might be good for that committee. Okay, anything anybody want to say about that for this meeting? I didn't think so. I have one more piece of new business that I'd like to bring up, and I distributed earlier today an email from, after some trouble, an email from Carol Brand. What it was is, here, I'm going to try to call it up. There we go. Let's see. What it is under our rules, we are allowed to share the list of our, well, we're obligated actually to share the list of our precinct leaders with a campaign when the campaign requests it, okay? Not a PAC, but a campaign. And so the Women for Biden group, which is an arm of the Biden campaign, has asked me for that list. And under our rules, we're obligated to give it to them. What the Central Committee has to do, though, this is very odd. What the Central Committee has to do is, if we want to give it to them electronically, like by email, then the Central Committee has to approve that we give it to them by email. So that's what I'd like, is I'd like a motion to approve that we share our precinct leader list with the Women for Biden group as an arm of the Biden campaign by email. And I will entertain a motion to that effect.
Linda, this moment, can we just clarify what a campaign is?
A campaign is a campaign. It's a candidate's campaign is what it means, a candidate.
Okay. Not necessarily Women for Biden or, Asian Americans for Biden. I mean, is that a campaign? Or
Yes.
is that just a subgroup of a campaign?
It's a subgroup of a campaign.
It's not a campaign.
It's not a campaign.
Well, I asked the state party about this, and they said it was fine to consider it part of the campaign.
But what do our rules say?
our rules say, I mean, I don't know, I don't quote them off the top of my head, but our rules say that a candidate's campaign can request this.
But they're
And the
not-
rules, by the way, the rules also say that a precinct chair can request it. And she's also a precinct chair, but, you know.
Did they say how
Her
they're gonna-
use is not as a precinct chair. Her use is part.
So do you want me to tell them no?
I was just trying to understand.
For just clarification, that's all, just clarification.
Because, you know, I can. Huh?
Linda, you don't have, if it's not electronic, we send them a hard copy, then the committee doesn't have to approve it.
We also have an obligation to protect our precinct leaders.
Likewise, absolutely.
So, you know,
so are we going to
we
tell
don't
them no?
necessarily want them to be hit with a gazillion communications from some other organization. So what is our obligation here? We don't really have an obligation to Women for Biden. We
Okay,
might have
Scott
some
Goldberg
obligation
wants-
to the Biden for President campaign.
Scott Goldberg wants to speak.
So I don't think there's harm in sharing this, but when we transmit it to them, if we can ask them to respect some common email courtesy, like don't oversend people, use blind carbon copy. Once the campaign is over, if they could sort of destroy the list and promise not to give it to anybody else, because some precinct officials do give negative feedback that it feels like their email address has just been shared with a lot of people.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think if we give it, we need to give it with some rules or ask for some money for it or something.
I'm not going to ask for money for it.
And the other point is that there's a Biden campaign person in Maryland. He can ask for it and then give it to them anyway. So it's not like we're saying no. You just look petty, and I think that if our goal is to get Biden elected, assisting any route that takes us on that road is acceptable to me.
How is that? I'm sorry, but how is that going to
Hey,
help?
well, wait a minute. We have a speakers list. Erwin wants to talk. Erwin.
I understand.
Go ahead, Erwin.
I understand the concern about privacy. I mean, my home phone is ringing off the hook almost constantly these days, and we essentially, it's very annoying, and we almost never answer it unless we recognize the caller ID. In this case, I personally would say we know the Women for Biden group. We know Carol Brand. I would support giving it to the group. I hear that there's a little bit of ambiguity in our rules in terms of what constitutes a campaign. I think it's fair to say this is part of the Biden campaign. I understand the concern. What if we get similar requests from all kinds of groups, ABC for Biden, all kinds of unofficial groups are going to spring up, and we might not want to always give it to them. So if people are concerned that we're establishing a precedent by giving it to what some might view as an unofficial arm of the Biden campaign, and we don't want to be forced to feel like we have to give it to any other ABC group for Biden, then it seems like a simple fix is to give it to the Maryland for Biden campaign, the official arm of the campaign in Maryland, and we can tell them that we would like them to share this with Women for Biden, or we can tell Carol Brand that we've given it to the official branch of the Maryland for Biden campaign.
Let me just say that this is an official branch of the Biden campaign. The state party chair is one of the chairs of the Women for Biden campaign. So in Maryland. So I'm just saying these hoops are interesting, but it's, I could give it to the state party chair, right? This is an official campaign. It's not some ad hoc group that they put together. There's a national Women for Biden, and there's a state Women for Biden, and there's a Montgomery County Women for Biden.
If it's an official part of the campaign.
Susie, there is a speakers list.
Where is the speakers list?
Susie, there is
Where?
It's on my list. I'm keeping a speakers list.
Well, how do I get on?
Susie.
How do I get
Laura
on it?
Henderson has a comment. She put it in the chat. Laura Henderson has a comment. Go, Laura.
I just wanted to follow up on what Erwin said and say that I think that the very highest priority of precinct officials and Democrats, in any party position in Montgomery County is getting Biden elected. And so extremely supportive of sending this material and happy to add some of the provisos of, please, the ones that Scott brought up, which I think are helpful. But I just want to underline that I think it behooves us to do all that we can to support the Biden campaign. And this is indeed a direct part of the Biden campaign. So that's all I wanted to say.
Jasmine Morale.
I was gonna, after Lori spoke, I wanted to just second what she said, that I agree that, and what Laura just said and Erwin. So absolutely, I want us to be part of the team. And I agree that we want to protect our precinct officials and give some guidelines, but I don't want it to feel like we're being petty in any way or putting in up roadblocks when we're all trying to do the work to get Biden elected. So.
Okay. Arthur.
Did they say how she was going to use it? Maybe in her email or something? How are you planning to use the information?
We'd like to invite them to join the GOTV activities that Maryland Women for Biden is planning. That's what she says. So they're doing GOTV activities every Wednesday. And I think what they want to do is push that out. And she's asking just for emails. That's the only contact information she's asking for, is emails. Dave Schumacher.
Thank you. Linda, I hesitate to contradict, but she's asking for precinct affiliations and district affiliations. And, I guess my concern is nation. So if it's just a list of here are all our precinct officials and here's their email addresses, that's one thing. If they're going to step in and try and organize our precincts, then they're going to be working sort of at cross purposes what we're trying to do within the precinct organization. So I think we ought to be asking them to coordinate with our precinct organization. And I'm a little bit concerned that they're asking for the detail on the precinct affiliations of these people.
Okay. Susie.
I concur with Dave.
Okay. So what do you want to do?
May I speak again?
Yeah.
I think you need to ask the Biden for Maryland or Maryland for Biden campaign if they want the list of our precinct emails. And if they don't, fine. If they do, fine. Otherwise, we don't need to provide it. Maryland women can work just as hard to get the information as the rest of us do.
Okay. Erwin? Erwin? Erwin?
Unmute.
Sorry.
Unmute yourself.
Okay. So, given that we know that this is an official part of the Biden campaign, Carol Brand is one of our most, bedrock county organizers. It is true that Yvette Chair is very invested as a co-chair of Women for Biden. So I would like to move that we accept Carol Brand's request.
Second.
Seconded by, okay, moved by Erwin, seconded by Lori. Dave Schumacher, did you have a comment?
Well, just following up on my earlier comment, I'd like to add that they discuss this with the precinct organization so we can understand why they need all the precinct details. Carol, being a part of the precinct organization, should be aware that we are trying to mobilize district by district. And so I think it would be worth a conversation to make sure that we're just not working in, sort of not exactly cross purposes, but in an uncoordinated fashion.
So what I think maybe we could do, I'll take more comments on this, Lori, in a second, but let me see if this could address Dave's concern. Perhaps what we could do is have the precinct organization
you and Shruti communicate with Carol about this and how it's you know, how the information is given to her, you know, given to her. I don't know that we have to give them, you know, she would like an Excel file with all that information in it, but I think our only obligation is to give them a list of the precinct leaders and their contact information. I think that's it. I don't think we have to go that extra mile. If you feel like it's helpful, we could. So that might be a way to make sure that your concerns are addressed, Dave. Lori, did you have a comment?
Well, I just want to say that as Democrats, we sometimes get lost in the weeds and start these turf wars over this is my department and this is my domain and this is what I'm doing, and we lose track of the bigger picture, which in this case is get Biden elected. And I agree with Erwin that Carol Brand is, if anybody has paid their dues as you know, president of the Women's Democratic Club, I think that she absolutely deserves us to bend in her favor and not get caught up in whether or not we're following a certain protocol and become very protective to the detriment of our ultimate goal. So if we put this to a vote, I'm going to vote aye. You know, yes, let's just give them what they want.
Susie?
I'm immediately reacting to Lori's comment again that my goal here is to protect our precinct leaders and to protect our organization, our precinct organization, from being inundated with requests from other organizations. I agree with Dave again that, and I guess with Linda's construction, that we need to have a discussion between the precinct organization and Carol about their intended use of this information. They should by now have access to NGP, VAN, and all the tools that we have access to. They should be able to extract any and all emails.
Well, actually, that's actually incorrect. They can't. They can only do it in their precinct, so they can't do that.
Oh, a question.
The Maryland for Biden campaign can only extract in
the
what
Maryland for
precinct?
Biden campaign doesn't know who our precinct officials are. They
Okay,
can go into
they don't
Dan
need
themselves
to.
and
They
pull
can
out
extract.
information.
They can extract emails
But that's
from
not what we're talking
anywhere.
about. But that's
Anywhere
not
in.
what we're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
They
Dave?
can identify emails within any precinct in Maryland.
Right. Dave,
So
did
they
you want to
don't
make
need.
a comment, Dave?
I'm still talking.
I'm ruling you out of order. Dave, do you want to make a comment?
So yes, a couple of points. One is this is not about a turf war, and no one should take by this any reluctance to do all we can to elect Joe Biden. And the one of coordination and making sure that our precinct leaders, who sometimes negatively to getting inundated from all sides, are getting a more coordinated outreach from the various entities within the Democratic Party. We had on Saturday our campaign launch where a number of different organizations spoke of their commitment to coordinating with one another, and all we're asking for here is coordination. And I would like to say that I think Shruti and I would be happy to follow up with Carol. And another option that we could put on the table with Carol is if they've got some message targeted to precinct leaders, you know, maybe we can send that message out for them. So we're happy to discuss options for collaboration. And this is not about turf.
Okay. Lori Rodich, are you calling the question? You're muted. You said yes, right? Yeah, that's all right. There you go. Yeah, she's shaking her head yes. Yeah. Yeah. So before we vote, I just want to say that I agree with everything that's in the chat. This is not about protecting our precinct leaders or our precinct organization. We're about electing Democrats and electing a Democratic president. And this group is not, we're not talking about turning it over to a group of Republicans. We're not turning it over to some group that we know nothing about. We're talking about turning it over to giving the list of our precinct leaders to a bona fide arm of the Biden campaign. And if we're not willing to do that, then I don't know what we're doing here, folks. Okay? Then I don't know what we're doing here. We need everybody making calls. We need everybody working on this campaign. And that's what this group is dedicated to doing, getting Joe Biden elected president. And so my opinion is that, you know, we can't be petty about this. Whether we give them, you know, the most, all the information so that they bombard our precinct officials, you know, endlessly. I'm not saying that. They're asking for emails. That's what they're asking for. That's not that intrusive. And I'm not against them coordinating with the precinct organization, but we got to be really careful that we don't end up being so proprietary and so insular that we lose sight of the big picture. So that's my opinion on this. Lori's called the question. Anybody else have anything to add? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to take a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Nay.
Okay, 2 noes, the rest ayes. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, I would like to now entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting, but I would like to have a I know it's late, but I would like to have a very quick personnel caucus off the record at the end of this in executive session about our staff person. Okay, so I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
Somebody, are you moving it?
Yeah, Mimi.
Mimi's moving. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second by Greg. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Central Committee members, please stay on the line for just, I guarantee you it won't be longer than 5 minutes. Okay? It won't be longer than 5 minutes. Everybody else, please leave so that we can have an executive session about personnel. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. I'm just looking here. I think we're good. Okay. So I'm now going to convene the executive session. Erwin, yeah, stop recording. Thank you, Juan.